Good day and welcome back to another DBZ Dokkan video. In this video, we're going to be taking a look to cut a long story short, we're going to be taking a look at the Cellmax event, and essentially, to cut a long story short, again, for the third time, and it is a long story, because this fight is, I don't want to say tragic, but it is very, very, very painful. This fight is one of those fights where the way it's phrased, like the way its mechanics and everything work, it is a absolute shambles of a stage. So how it works is quite simple. Cellmax starts off really strong, like really strong. He becomes, starts off very powerful, and essentially becomes stronger, over time. So you kind of get more and more pressured by Cellmax as a unit and as a fight. But now to compensate this, they give you a lot, they give you a lot of items, which helps, of course, always. It helps a ton. Having the items makes life a lot easier. On top of that as well, just saying. But there is also the fact that you slowly get the ability to apply more and more debuffs to Cellmax as a unit. So like Cellmax starts off, you can't stun him, you can't make him take damage, you can't do anything like that. But what you can do is you essentially can cause him some pretty big issues by stunning him, sealing him, and attack lowering him later on. And this occurs at around about the 11, I was going to say 11 now, around the 4 or 5 turn mark. And the reason this occurs is because his ability to withstand buffs and debuffs drops. But this comes at a price. You essentially have, for lack of a better term, you essentially have a scaling unit. Like Cellmax becomes progressively harder and harder, so it is something that's harder and harder to deal with, which is always not really that great. So he does in essence cause a lot of problems. I think also the one thing is his level of defense. He has a ridiculous level of defense. He has a 5 million defense. You have to cut a long story short, you have to lower his defense. So lowering defense is very big for maintaining your ability to do damage to him. On top of that as well, you also have to really deal with the fact that, at least on this team that I'm using, you'll see, but he's a strength type unit. So bringing AGL, bringing stuff like that, doing damage to him is very crucial. Now, besides that, realistically speaking, there's not too much else. So if you understand that basis, then I think you should be able to make a pretty good time of everything. I think ultimately you should be able to make a really straightforward, attempt at Cellmax. Now, for this mission, we have to use extreme units, and I think for me, the difficulty with using extreme units on a lot of teams right now is extreme strength. For some reason, extreme strength feels very undercooked, just in general as a typing, and so I think a lot of players are struggling to use extreme strength to get the win. It's the weak aspect of the team, so I think ultimately for me, there's definitely this feeling that a lot of people are going to be let down by extreme strength. So for Margin Power or Margin Boost Saga, or whichever way you want to phrase it, but for the Pink Boys team, the extreme good boot does well, but you do have to be cognizant of how many orbs you're picking up. So you can't just YOLO in there, throw them at the end, and then not care about them. You do have to a certain extent, I want to say, cater to him, but you do have to be aware of how many strength orbs you are getting. You cannot just YOLO throw him out there. You have to get as many strength orbs as possible and make your life as easy as possible with it. Now, aside from that, I think for the most part everything is actually really straightforward. Yeah, a lot of times I'm using items quite early on to secure myself defensively. Once those items run out, generally speaking, I'm using the Ghost Usher abilities of Boo, of Good Boo, and he generally is buying me a little bit more time. Now, like I said, this is a hard-hitting boss. It is not for the faint of heart, so don't feel like you are not good because you are struggling with this unit. Also, as well, don't be scared. Transform Boo. So transform Boo Han. Don't hold on to him too much. Like, I think I realistically transformed him from like turn 6-ish, 5 or 6. Don't be scared to transform him. Try and pick a friend or give your Boo as much crit as possible. Crit is super important, of course, it always is, but especially here where the enemy boss has so much health, so much damage, so much defense reduction, damage reduction, so much defense, that you need to a certain extent really crit to see cognizant damage. Like you'll see, I mean, you've been watching the video, like a 30 million crit physical attack stat does like literally nothing to this guy. So the only way really to take him out is doing big volumes of crits. Fortunately though, we are able to seal him, so we are able to seal lock him, which I think is really good. TEQ Boo obviously great from that aspect, really able to just kind of like, okay, do his thing, seal the unit and just have a good time, which I think is really helpful for a lot of players. And yeah, that's really it. To be honest with you, I think for me, like, the team build works fundamentally. We've got double int boos because I like the revive. Like, a lot of people misunderstand it. It's not a damage thing, it's a security thing. Double revives, double intercepts, these are very crucial abilities, and they make Boo really good. Not to mention he's actually really tanky, he's got great healing, and if you do manage to transform him, then, or I should say trigger his revive, then he actually does become a good source of like damage. So that's hard to do, but it is something that's possible. But realistically, we're just relying on Boo Han and some crits, and we're relying on the TEQ Boo, because that's very crucial towards damage, as you can see. TEQ Boo kind of doing his thing. So it's definitely a tougher stage. And I think extreme is definitely a big problem. I think super bosses as well struggled a lot with the extreme strength slot. Like, I just don't think there's a ton of options right now outside of this Boo. So for me, that was a very big defining factor as to why I went with the Boo team. It's because I knew that at the end of the day, the Boos would do enough damage, and they had a lot of control, but it's the fact that the strength unit did not instantly die and throw the run that kind of guaranteed everything. So yeah, I would say for me overall, definitely a hard challenge. It's also a long one. Like, it's not fun to lose to Selmax. He is a very long fight, so that is something I think is different. But overall, it was a good run, and I did enjoy it, and it was really interesting to work around, and the Martian Brew team continued to succeed. Bye.